guys, here come the dollies. They got fresh sinkers, hot coffee, and the sweetest smile.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Clubmobile.
Hello, everyone.
If you're still listening and you're joining us, welcome back for episode 5 of the Donut Dollies podcast. We're so thrilled to have you here.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for your continued listening. It's so fun. This is really so fun.
I'm having the time of my life doing
having
this
a
right
great
now.
time.
I'm having a great time.
And I love that we can share the things that are so special to us through doing this. Like, for example, we had the old Hollywood episode for me, and I feel like this one is your niche thing.
Yes, I guess it is. You guys can't see, but I'm smiling.
They can hear it. It's fine.
They can hear it. We're so excited to talk about the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. We're pretty sure that a lot of you are familiar with the movie A League of Their Own, or the Amazon series of the same name, which is based on the true story of the women who played baseball during the war. This is very, very special to me. And I was very excited to share it with Winnie. I just need to ask you right off the bat, what did you think of the movie?
I loved it, and I'm genuinely so mad at myself for not watching it sooner. For some reason, I had never seen the movie, but I had watched the TV series. And when that came out in 2022, I watched the series, and as the movie is special to you, the TV series is special to me, because that is what got me back into World War II media and the fashion and the music. That was the thing for me. I was like, oh, we're so back. This is exactly what I want to look like. It's exactly what I want to listen to all the time. And it became my thing for a while. And I do wish I had watched the movie first. Genuinely so upset with myself for waiting this long to watch it. Loved it.
I'm so glad that you loved it. I'm just very, very happy that you enjoyed it. And I was so happy to share it with you. I have been watching that movie. I would go so far as to say that the original movie from 1992 was probably my first introduction to period film. And as a kid, I don't think I would have said, oh, it's wartime media, but I was also a kid and I didn't know.
Yeah, of course.
I was just enamored with the baseball of it, and that there was women doing something so incredible. And I was definitely too young to fully comprehend the not the severity, but the weight of it.
Yes.
But I just remember watching it so many times as a kid. If it was on TV, or would rent it at, I'm dating myself, but rented at Blockbuster before Netflix, before streaming. I would rent it at Blockbuster. I would beg my mom to take me, or my dad would rent it at Blockbuster. So
I love
far as to prompt my dad to take us on a family trip to Cooperstown to visit the Baseball Hall of Fame.
I love that so much. How old were you?
Oh, maybe 10. Maybe 10.
Goodness. That's so cute.
I remember wanting to go. I remember being so enamored with the end of the movie and the exhibit that was shown at the end of the movie with all of the memorabilia. And I remember going, I want to go see it. My dad was like, well, there's an exhibit for the Women's Baseball League in Cooperstown, upstate New York. And, we don't live very far. We don't live so far from Cooperstown that we couldn't drive. So it was a small family getaway. It was a little trip. And he was like, we can go. I'll take you. We can go. So the four of us packed up and we went to Cooperstown, and we stayed in a motel not far from the museum. And I mean, we're a baseball family to begin with. So
Yeah,
there was more. I mean, for me, there was more than just the women's league there.
of
And there was
course.
like, we're diehard Yankees fans in my family. So there was a
Yeah.
lot to see. But I remember getting to the women's exhibit and my dad was like, well, here it is.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, where's the rest of it?
Was it so small?
Oh, it was so small.
Oh,
It
no.
was as an adult now, I'm like, I feel like I want to go back, and I feel like it's something that I need to see now again as an adult.
Yeah.
Um, I might see it. I know I would see it in a different light. But I remember saying, well, where's the rest of it? And
Mhm.
he's like, well, this is it. And there was maybe two glass cases, and there was uniforms, hats, gloves, some
Yeah.
cleats, like, and photos of the women, photos of the teams. And I was expecting it to be tremendous, like in the movie. I was expecting this
Yeah.
tremendous tribute to these women who made this tremendous impact
Yeah, because
on sports.
in the movie
And
it looks so much bigger. And
it
I'm not sure if that was like
is.
camera angle or just the way that they had
It's
built
not
it on
even,
set.
that's just the set. It's not even close to that. That was
Wow.
all set. Because I remember even seeing that area of the museum where you come down those two escalators,
Yeah.
and because I remember seeing there's like a giant, or at the time there was, I haven't been to the museum in years, a giant baseball kind of like mounted on the wall as you come down these
Uh-huh.
two escalators. And that's where in the movie the exhibit was.
Yes.
So as we were coming down those escalators, here I am thinking, oh my God, it's going to be right there. No,
Is it like tucked behind?
it is in a room, not very, um, not very obvious. Like if you don't know that you're looking for it, you might
Yeah.
walk past it.
If anything, that's sort of a disservice. And
Absolutely.
I feel like again, this is so appropriate for us to talk about because even when they have been honored for their work and their time, it's still a case of you have to hunt for it amongst a bunch of men.
It took ages to even get them in the museum.
Yeah. What was the year they say in the movie? I assume it's the same year that they're inducted in reality as in the movie.
I would imagine so. So, I mean, let's put it into perspective that the war started, America entered the war after Pearl Harbor. So
Yes.
1941.
Mm-hmm.
They shut down minor league play
They did because a lot of the
in
men were being drafted.
in the fall of 42.
Yes.
They shut down minor league play
Mm-hmm.
because the men were getting drafted.
And then they ended up shutting down
And then
major
not long
leagues.
after that, they shut down the major leagues.
Yep.
And after they shut down the majors, Philip Wrigley,
Yes.
owner of Wrigley Field,
Mm-hmm.
he was tasked with finding a way to keep baseball going during the duration of the war.
Yes. It was a case of the women were not there to replace the men. They were just there until they got back.
Right. They were not meant to. I don't think in the initial fabrication of the teams and the league, the women weren't meant to ever play side by side
Yeah.
with the men. I don't think they
Yes.
were ever meant for that. And yet somehow the league ended up going for 11 years. The women's league ended up
Yes.
going for 11 years, well past the end of the war.
Yeah. I remember there's a specific part in the movie where two of the men are having a conversation of like, oh, we're winning the war. We don't need to carry this on.
Yes.
But the other guy says, no, look how good this is making everybody feel. We have to keep going.
I very specifically, I'm so glad that you mentioned that part of the movie because I was very specifically thinking about that earlier.
Yeah.
So the two men that you're talking about, it's
Mr. Harvey.
Mr. Harvey, which is the the fictional Harvey Bar,
He's
who is
the fictional
actually the
Wrigley.
fictional owner of Harvey Field.
Yes.
In the movie, they actually shot that at Wrigley Field. That is
Yes,
Wrigley Field in
that's
Chicago.
Wrigley. Okay.
So Harvey is akin to Wrigley.
Yes.
And there's Ira Lowenstein, which is
Yep.
kind of Mr. Harvey's right-hand man.
Yes.
He was the one who was tasked with finding a way to keep baseball going.
Mhm.
And he sees the women as more than just a replacement. You can
Yes.
see it. He fights for them.
I
You
feel
know,
like he sees them as more of an investment than a replacement.
an investment in the country's well-being.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and he sees them, they're not just girls, they're ball players.
Yeah. And he does make that very clear that he doesn't just see them as
Yes.
something to make other people feel good. I feel like he's one of the only men that see them as something besides homemakers and women that must stay at home and wait all day for their husband to return.
Which is what he says in that scene with Harvey, where he says,
Yes.
you know, the war is over. The war is over, Rosie, turn in your rivets.
Yes.
And Harvey says to him, well, should we be sending the men coming back from war back into the kitchen?
Yep. Exactly.
To Harvey, it's a no-brainer in one sense, and to Lowenstein, it's a no-brainer in the other sense.
Yeah.
They see it completely opposite. And, you know, at the end of the movie, Harvey, you know, eventually folds. You know, all right, we can stick with it.
All right, we can carry on. But this is why I think I, even from just watching the movie one time, it's sort of why I already prefer the movie to the TV show, because I don't recall anything in the TV show akin to that. Like, there isn't a moment that happens where it's ending or near an end. I feel like that the fact that America is at war is mentioned in episode 1, but then it sort of goes more into the fact that the sport wasn't integrated yet. All of these are really good things that they spoke about. I'm happy that the series was made, but there's something about the movie that just, it got me way more than the show did. Even though the show is so special.
The show was very good. I did watch the show once, but also I watched it in a completely different frame of mind than you did, because I was comparing it to the movie.
Yes, which is why, again, I'm glad that I hadn't seen the movie when I watched the show.
Right.
But I had a lot to learn from the show, because really in England, baseball is not a big thing. It's only recently become something to follow, and even then, a lot of people in England will follow American baseball teams.
Right.
We don't have baseball. I think offensively compared baseball to Rounders one time. And they said, no, it's not. I wish you guys
listening could see my face right now. You do have to round the bases. You do have to round the bases.
Yeah,
but
technically, I was like, oh, it's like Rounders. No, it's not. And then I moved here and I watched softball matches and stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is not like Rounders.
Softball games, not softball matches.
Oh my goodness. See? Exactly. It just sneaks its way in. But yeah, I was like, this isn't like Rounders at all.
It's why they call, I mean, it really is why baseball is the great American pastime.
It truly is. And I have come to enjoy it. I really like it.
Well, that's good. I'm
glad.
It
kind of stresses me out, but I quite like it. And I wish that, you know, very oddly, I wish that we had been around to see something like this.
This would
have been amazing.
I mean, there's women that play softball now. They go to the Olympics. They have softball world champions. These women are powerhouses.
Yeah.
But there's something about this specifically that to me is like, these women were feisty.
They really were.
They had strict requirements, which seems to be the trend.
Thing.
We're picking up. The trend is that, you know, any woman that wanted to serve in the war, whether you were home,
to look nice.
whether you were serving on the home front or serving overseas, there were strict requirements. And I mean, just to go through a few of these. They had to be skilled players, but they also had to look good on and off the field.
Didn't they go to charm school or
They did.
something
These
and like
girls got
etiquette
sent
school?
to Helena Rubinstein's charm school because they had to have the
Wow.
appearance and the personality of an all-American girl.
Actually, one of my favorite moments in the movie was when they do go to etiquette school and Rosie O'Donnell is like shoveling all those cookies in her mouth. She's like, "What? They're really good." And she's just sneaking.
Doris Murphy was not there for tea and learning
She
how to
was
cross
there
her
for
legs.
the
She was there for
free
the
baked
snacks.
goods. She was there for the free baked goods, and I don't blame her one bit. They also couldn't drink or smoke in public.
which Madonna's character makes very obvious
She
that
makes obvious that
she's
she
ready
does
to.
not care.
She does not care.
But another one that she quite liked, I think, was they had to wear lipstick all the time, and
that
May was
again,
always
that seems to be the one trend we see progressing through everything. So
yes,
if you go back to our first episode on the Club Mobile Girls, lipstick was required.
and perfume.
Yes, lipstick and perfume was required. So again, here, lipstick required at all times. Even their uniforms.
Yeah.
So these girls were primarily coming from instances where they played softball. And usually it was softball leagues for women that were sponsored by factories or supermarkets. And they would make X amount of money per game. And they went from wearing like a baseball uniform. It looked like a baseball uniform. It was a shirt with pants. It had the belt and they had the hat, and they would have like either the high socks or whatever. It was just a more slim cut of a baseball uniform.
I feel like it was more practical than what we're about to describe as well.
I think for them, way more practical.
Way more practical.
The uniforms that they ended up wearing were super feminine. I mean, they were designed to be ultra feminine, and they were modeled after like a figure skater's dress.
Yes.
And it was one piece. It was the dress. It buttoned up it buttoned on the front. The buttons were off to the side. Each team of the initial 4 teams, each team wore a different color. They had the belt. And the belt, the hat, and the socks were all the same color. They matched. And underneath the skirt was like a pair of satin, we would, I guess, akin to what we would say boy shorts underneath the skirt. And they were expected to run and slide. In that. And she says that you can't slide in that. And
yes,
Gina Davis's character is the catcher, Dottie Hinson. And
how am I supposed to bend down
I have
in that?
to squat in that thing.
Yeah.
She had to squat in a dress and hope that whoever was sitting behind home plate, right?
Didn't want to look.
Wasn't looking for a look.
Yeah, they had to be the all-American girl, which unfortunately in this instance meant that black girls couldn't play because they weren't counted as the all-American girl back then. The sport wasn't integrated.
No, and that's something that I think that the show touches on a little bit more.
It does. There was something I read last night after we had finished watching the movie, where in the movie itself, there is a scene where a black woman throws the baseball back to Gina Davis's character.
And it bypasses. She throws it so hard, it bypasses Gina Davis. So it bypasses Dottie and goes right to Ellen Sue.
It does.
And Ellen Sue is yards behind Dottie. And she's like wringing out her hand afterwards.
And in the show, that's sort of a little Easter egg where during tryouts, Max throws the ball to show them that she can do it despite the color of her skin.
Right.
The racism also came into play with making the movie in 1992, where her name was Delisa Chin Tyler, and she answered a casting call in the local paper to be in the movie, but she was told, no, you can't be in it because there was no colored girls that played. But she played so well that Penny Marshall wrote that scene for her.
I love Penny Marshall.
Me too. And I love how she put her brother Gary in every movie she did Chin Tyler received $750 to play the part that Penny Marshall personally wrote for her. She was told she would be credited, and then she was not.
Jesus.
Just to add
insult to injury,
salt in the wound of
Yeah.
you can't be in the movie because the sport wasn't integrated yet.
Mm.
And that's why I'm glad that the show was made, because it touched on so much of that. Even though I did miss, like, now I've seen both and I can compare the two. I did miss the wartime aspect in the show itself. There's a lot less of
when I
that.
watched the show,
Yeah.
I missed the baseball aspect. I don't think there was
Yeah,
enough
there
baseball
wasn't
in
enough.
it.
There
And I
really
know that
wasn't.
Gina Davis and Penny Marshall gave their blessing for this.
They did.
I know
yes.
that they did. For me personally, A
Yeah.
League of Their Own is about the love affair with the game.
Yes, not with each other.
Not with each other. And I know that that was still something of the time, that there was women who couldn't come out openly and say that they, they were gay, or
Yep.
they were a certain orientation, whichever they were happy to live their life as.
Yes.
I just feel, for me, the movie and that the game, these women had a love affair with the game. They
Yes.
loved baseball so much. And I'm not even talking now movie, TV show. I'm talking the real women.
The real women, yeah.
They loved baseball so much
Mhm.
that they went through training,
Yep.
charm school. They played in skirts. They played wearing lipstick in 100-degree heat. They got broken fingers. They got bruised. They slept on motor coaches, and they were away from home. Some of them, their husbands were in the war. Some of them were playing ball and they were finding out that their husbands had been killed.
Yeah.
But they were in love with the game. And I think that that was the one thing I felt that the show lacked.
Yes.
A bit.
I do agree.
You do see it in the movie.
You see a lot of gaming in the movie.
A lot of that love of the game. I don't think, and that was my one big fault with the show.
Yes. Now I've seen both.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like the show was a letdown, because I said,
it touched on
special.
it gave a lot of other things. It wasn't
Yes.
By no means am I saying it was a letdown.
No,
Absolutely
of course. But now I've watched the movie, I kind of can compare, and I can see what was missing from one to the other.
Right.
Like, for example, in the movie, like you said, they're there for the love of the game, and they go against so much misogyny and catcalling, to by the end you've got people giving them gifts for hitting a ball out the park, or you've got men giving them gifts for just being there and playing.
Right.
Whereas I feel like the show was so intense, which I kind of guess it had to be, because it was such a forbidden relationship between the two women.
Yes.
And it was such a forbidden thing to talk about, being queer in that time, that I do feel the show was a great exploration of that. And I know that the writer Abby Johnson wanted to bring forward that there were some women in the real league that were gay.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
There was someone I read about doing research for this episode, and her name was Josephine D'Angelo.
Yes, she went by JoJo.
She went by JoJo, and she went against the grain of the all-American girl by getting her hair cut too short, and she was fired for that.
Yes.
Like, usually there was like a 3-strike rule of you're spoken to, and then you get a report written about you, and then you're fired if you hit strike 3. But she was just fired outright. Her contract was not renewed, and she went to sign on with the National Girls Baseball League of Chicago, but she got fired over a, quote, butchy haircut, and it went against the expectations set for the women. But then later in life, JoJo did come out as gay, and I do think that was an important story to tell through
absolutely.
The show, mixed in with the racism of the time too.
Yes, there was a lot that women could not say, a lot that women could not do, and I think for them, by being able to do this, they saw it. They really did see it for what it was. They definitely they had a great sense of what this opportunity was for them.
Absolutely.
I
And
mean,
they even
they
struggled afterwards to play professional sports
they did. I mean,
in
up
the
until
decades
recently.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say up until the last like maybe 15, 20 years
Yeah.
has women's sports, and I'm not talking figure skating or gymnastics,
Yeah, of
like
course.
women's sports
Hmm.
really taken off like a shot.
Yeah. A lot of the women said that playing in the league offered them an unparalleled opportunity.
Well, they say that in the movie too. It was the
Say that in the movie.
best time she
Best
ever
time of
had
their
in her whole
lives.
life.
I really loved the end of the movie where they're all playing the credit scene, they're all playing ball together.
I
And
told you, I know I
I was
warned you ahead of
losing
time
it.
last night. I know I warned you. I was like, you're going to
You're gonna
cry.
cry
You're
because I'm a
going to
crier
cry. I've seen
anyway.
the movie probably 2,000 times, and
And you're
I
still
still
crying.
cry.
I
I
was a mess.
still cry at the end. Um, I think the thing that gets me the most is that the women at the end of the movie that are playing ball, right? Now they're
Yeah.
all older women, they've lived their lives,
They've all got married.
they've
Most of them have
all
had
got
children.
married, had children, now they have grandchildren.
Yeah.
Those women that are playing though, those are not paid actors.
No,
Those
those
are
are
the
the women.
real those are the real women. And you don't real I don't think you realize it at first, like the first time you're seeing the movie, when the woman who plays older Dottie is traveling
Traveling to the reunion,
to
right?
Cooperstown. Right. She's traveling to the reunion. She's
Yeah.
reluctant to go. She only played one season. She's reluctant to go. Nobody's going to remember
Yes.
her. And her daughter forces her to go.
Yep. Literally shoves her in the
So
car.
you see it as she gets off the bus. The bus lets them out right in front of Doubleday Field, which is in Cooperstown.
Yes.
And they're shaking hands with each other. They're handing out sweatshirts. Those are the real women.
They are.
I didn't know that at first.
Yes.
That was another thing that I learned. My dad told me, he was like, no, those are the real ball players. I said, no, what? No. He goes, those are the real ball players. And you see it at the end also. They're decked out in their sweatshirts. They're wearing
And
the
the little
league
hats.
logo and they're wearing hats and they're so proud. To them, this goes back to, I think you said it last time we spoke, the women who wear the veterans who wear their
Yeah,
hats.
the little old ladies that
To
wear their
see
cute little
them in their
hats.
sweatshirts and their hats, for
It's
them,
so
that's
sweet.
their equivalent. That was
Yes,
their service during
of
the
their
war.
service.
This
Yeah.
was their service during the war. And to see them playing ball, they had to be in their 70s at that point.
And they
As
can
I mean, the
still
movie came out in
play.
1992. The sound of the crack of the bat, some of these
They
women,
they yeah,
oh my goodness.
like firecrackers.
They were still firecrackers in their older
They were
age.
whacking that ball, they were throwing it,
There's the
they
one
were
woman at the end
running.
who's fighting with the umpire and she's
She
kicking
kicked
dirt on his
sand.
shoes.
I
She's
was
kicking dirt on
cackling.
his shoes because she doesn't agree with the call. And she's a grandmother
She's like shoulder
and
checking
she's
him.
up in his face kicking dirt on his
I
shoes.
love
I
that.
love
Honestly, one of my
that.
favorite parts of the movie was that specific bit where she turns around all like broad shouldered and she's like, hey, no. And she's just kicking dirt on his shoes. I loved it.
I have to ask you,
Yes.
what did you think of? I mean, we as history enthusiasts and history
Yeah.
nerds, we hold Tom Hanks, I think, to the highest standard possible.
Yeah.
But what did you think of his performance as Jimmy Dugan? Like going
He,
into this, going into it, what was your expectation of Tom Hanks's character? And then like take me, because you were texting me as we were watching it, and you were
yeah.
like, I can't believe this. How is he like this? I mean, what was your expectation? Like, take me through this because I'm genuinely curious as to your feelings on Jimmy Dugan.
I had a small expectation of what to expect
Mm-hmm.
from watching the show where Nick Offerman's character plays the equivalent of Jimmy Dugan
Okay.
in the Amazon show. So I expected him right off the bat to be grumpy, disinterested,
Mm,
and is only there because it's a job, which
right.
obviously you get with Jimmy Dugan. The difference is that Jimmy Dugan is a belligerent drunk and he's asleep for the first 6 games, and it
Yes.
made me so mad. So in the show, Nick Offerman's character, who plays the equivalent
Mhm.
of Dugan, he's very disinterested. He's sort of spaced out. And he gets to a point where he just quits because he's bored and this isn't what he wants to do. I feel like Nick Offerman's character in the show was somehow worse than Tom Hanks' character,
That's an
because
interest. That's a hot take on that. That's
you could
interesting.
you could tell that Nick Offerman's character,
But
I
I
don't even remember
agree.
his name. That's how bad this was. Was
We
that
just
he
keep
was
calling him Nick Offerman's
just Nick
character.
Offerman's character. I don't recall his name, which is so bad. And I watched it literally this morning. Um, he was just not interested. And you could tell, whereas it got to a point where Jimmy Dugan was interested and he cleaned up his act and he started
Part
to be honest with them.
the point of Ice, like where you start to see him turn,
Yes.
is that one clip, and I know we shared it on our
Yep.
Instagram
Yes.
earlier last week, is Dottie sort of, Gina Davis's character Dottie sort of assumes responsibility because Jimmy Dugan is sleeping
He's
for
he's
9 innings.
asleep and drunk.
He's sleeping through all 9 innings. And just barely staggering out of the dugout to, quote unquote, he says, it was made very clear what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to smile, wave my little hat. So when do I get paid?
Yes, he's only
He's
there for
just the
one
face.
thing.
He's a former professional major leaguer who
Yeah.
cannot fight. He was not drafted. He had a knee injury.
Yes.
Which, I mean, the movie goes into detail as
Yeah.
to how he obtained the knee injury, but he can't go overseas. He can't fight.
Yes.
So Harvey makes him the face of the Peaches
Yeah.
because Jimmy Dugan will draw a crowd.
Yes, because
So
he's
he
a big name,
staggers
right?
out at the beginning. He grits his teeth and smiles and he waves his little hat and then he tucks a towel behind his head and he falls asleep for 9
And he
innings.
takes a little nap
He
for
takes
a
a little
couple
nap.
hours.
And Dottie assumes responsibility along with the other girls. They begin to, this is where they begin to form a bond and a family. They coach each other through the games. You can see it. And Jimmy Dugan catches one moment where he's coherent and he's not even really paying attention to the game. He's awake and he's in the dugout and he's reading the paper.
That's as
He's
much as you
reading the
get.
paper and he just happens to catch the call that Dottie's giving to the batter.
Yes.
And he disagrees. And that's like the moment where he's kind of like, I can't turn back now. I've made my disagreement very obvious.
Yeah.
And he goes kind of nose to nose with Dottie until he says to her, hey, who's the goddamn manager here? I am.
Yeah.
And she tells him, well, act like it, you big lush.
And
It's just such a bold move on her part.
It really is.
And the shock on his face is just...
That's the tipping point for him, I think.
That's the tipping point for him.
I also
love
did
Tom
think
Hanks in this movie. Really do.
I do too. I also did think that there's that moment between them on the bus. Yes. I thought for a moment that something was gonna happen between them, and I'm like, wait, I don't want the movie to be about this. I don't want the movie to then turn and have something happen between Jimmy Dugan and Dottie. I was like, please, no. Obviously, she was a married woman.
Yes.
But I didn't want the movie to then turn into, oh my God, she's having an affair type thing.
Right.
I thought that was going to happen, but I'm so glad it didn't, because a lot of movies sort of end up going that way.
There is a deleted scene. You have to dig really deep for it, where they do have a little moment, and it was cut for that particular reason.
Good. Thank you.
It was cut for that particular reason because Penny Marshall said this is not what the movie's about.
My goodness. Good.
So
thank you.
I very foolishly in my younger years found it on YouTube and I watched it. Goodness. And I was like, I don't like this. Like, I don't like this moment, because I also feels like it does a disservice to Dottie's character as well.
Yes, because she wouldn't do that. She's very faithful.
She loved her husband very much.
Yeah.
She loved her husband so much that she convinced herself and everybody around her that if he was to come back right this minute, she could walk away from the game. And she
And she's
convinced
proven
everybody
otherwise.
but she convinced everybody of that lie but Jimmy Dugan.
Yeah.
And
And she's proved wrong when she
she's
gets to
proved
what,
wrong when
Yellowstone,
she gets 3/4 of the way home
and
and
hasn't
turns
turned
back to
around.
play the last game in the World Series.
Mhm.
Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't
Spoiler.
watched the movie. Please go to the World
Sorry.
Series. Sorry, the movie's been out since 1992. I really don't think we need to mark that as a spoiler.
You
but
might have to, because there could be people like me that have only
be
just
people
got
like
around to
you.
watching it. I want to go back to something we said, I think even at the beginning, where I said I'm upset with myself for not watching this sooner.
Mm.
But I would like to retract that statement, because I'm glad I've watched it now that we're doing this, as opposed to watching it when I was younger, because I wouldn't have got it. It wouldn't have clicked with me the way it has now.
My opinion on it has changed. My
Yeah.
feelings about it have changed as I've gotten older. It remains when I tell you, people say, "What's your favorite movie?" I say, "League of Their Own,"
They're their own, yeah.
because I could sit and watch it and cry at all the same parts,
And cry
all
at
over and over and over,
yeah.
and laugh at all the same parts, over
It's
and over
so
and over.
funny too. So funny.
And there's such a dynamic. The cast is dynamic, which means that the women playing the game are dynamic.
Yes, of course.
I mean, you've got Rosie O'Donnell, you've got faces. So you've got Gina Davis, Tom Hanks,
Yep.
Rosie O'Donnell, Madonna. I love Madonna in this movie, and not just because I'm a
She's
New Yorker
so
and
good.
she's got the guts to say what she has to say,
Mhm.
but I love Madonna in this movie. But I love that you have like a real glamour girl in Ellen Sue. You have a housemaker in Helen Haley. You've got the shy girl who wasn't really raised as a proper girl in Marla.
I loved Marla.
And I
fell so
love
in love
Marla
with
so
Marla.
much.
From in the get-go, I was like, that's my girlie. I love her.
And then you have Kit, who's Dottie's younger sister, Lori Petty.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Lori Petty, either from Orange is the New Black, or if
Yeah.
you're old like me, Point Break.
Hey, I've seen Point Break too, but
If
I
you're
didn't
old
click
like
it
me,
was
you know her from
her.
Point Break. No, you didn't. I said to you,
I
you said to
didn't
me last
click.
night, you're like, oh, she was also in Orange is the New Black. I said she was also in Point Break. You went, oh my God, she was.
Yes, she was.
God,
No,
she was.
I'm genuinely glad that I watched it. I feel like if I'd have watched it when I was younger,
Mhm.
I would not have appreciated it. I don't think I would have enjoyed it. I don't think I would have liked it. I would have said, oh, it's one of those movies that you have to watch
Mhm.
because everyone loves this movie. But like my tastes have changed over the years,
Yes.
and I wouldn't have enjoyed it 10 years ago.
I feel like
So now
I've
I'm
grown
really glad.
with it.
Yeah, now I'm really glad that
grown
I've
with
watched it.
And I mean, like I said earlier, I would love to go back up to Cooperstown and visit the exhibit again, because I just feel like I would see it in a different light. And also, I wonder if there's more.
There could be more
I
added
wonder if
now.
there's more, like,
Yeah,
more to it. I did go on
I
their
hope
website
so.
the other day. I was looking for the Cooperstown, the Museum of Cooperstown, because I was looking specifically to see if they still had this. If I tell you the long shot of it all, that they don't have it, but I didn't think they would. When you're a kid, as you do, you beg your
Yeah.
parents to take you to the gift shop.
Yes.
And I will never forget my dad telling me, pick something out. And I went right for, I think he thought maybe in a way I was going to like pick out something related to Derek Jeter. No shade to Derek Jeter. He's my favorite
Yeah,
male,
he's your favorite.
my favorite ball player. He's
Yep.
my favorite ball player. I grew up watching him. He was my first crush.
Oh,
He
that's so
was my first
cute.
crush.
Oh my goodness.
But I went to the jewelry counter,
Yeah.
and there was a pair of earrings in the showcase, and
Oh,
it was a set. Obviously, it was a women's baseball player.
that's
And
so
the
sweet.
detail. I will share a picture of these
Yes.
on our Instagram, I promise, because I went digging for these in my house. When I tell you,
Yeah, you did.
when I tell you the digging, I knew where they were, but they were also buried. But I found them, and they're still in perfect condition. They're not like rusty or
They're
anything.
beautiful.
And inside the box is a little card about it looks like a baseball card, and they're hanging on either side of the baseball card. And it's got a little description of the women's league and the importance of the league. and it's two women. I can't remember if it's a pitcher, if she's pitching or if she's batting. But
I would have really
you
liked
can
if
see,
one was
wait,
doing one and one was doing the other.
would have been great. Actually, I have a
Would have been
picture on my
great.
phone, and my phone is right next to me. So the earrings are on a little, they're hanging on the baseball card, and it says women in baseball, and she's pitching. And you can see
Yes.
the detail in the socks, the dress, the hat. You could see the outline of her glove.
They're really
And
beautiful.
they're beautiful. I mean, they're not something that you wear out, but
No,
they're
it's just like a little
keepsakes,
keepsake.
they're
Yeah.
keepsakes. And the little card underneath, it says, in the fall of 1942, under the threat of a Major League Baseball manpower shortage due to World War II, Philip K. Wrigley, chewing gum magnate and owner of the Chicago Cubs, proposed the establishment of a women's professional baseball league. The women who played the game were paid professionals.
Does it have their motto on it?
It does not have their motto on it, which I find, I wish it did. Their motto was do or die.
And I also love the song that they all sang. That made me cry.
The song is so sweet.
When they sing it in the
Locker room.
and then when they sing it as old ladies together, I
That's
went
what
through
tips me
8
over the
tissues.
edge at the
Yeah,
end when they start to sing it together.
that's what got me. I was like, oh my
Oh my
God, what's
gosh.
happening?
Oh my gosh.
It was so nice. I
But
loved it.
I would, like I said, I would definitely like to go up and visit again as an
We should
adult.
go.
And I
We
would
should absolutely
absolutely,
go.
we should definitely go check it out. We could also see if the place where I had my photo taken is still there.
We could recreate your picture.
For anybody listening, I've got my poor parents
You've had your poor
on a
parents
I've had my poor parents on a
digging around
manhunt
the
for the
house.
last week, digging through their house. One of the things we did up in Cooperstown as kids was I had my photo taken, all 9-10-year-old of me. I had my photo taken in a replica Rockford Peaches uniform.
That's so cute.
And I had the hat, and it was the pink dress, and I had my photo taken. And it's in my parents' house somewhere, and I've been begging my parents to find it for me for a week, because I said, I'm going to be real brave about this and share it with
everyone else.
Share it with the listeners. I'm going to share it with everybody. I have nothing to hide. I was 9 years old. I have nothing to hide. We haven't found it yet.
We will, though. We
So
promise at some point.
We'll find it. I know it's in that house. So, I mean, it's not like it grew legs and walked away. I know it's in the house. But I think, like, the more I think about, like, the photo, the earrings, the fact that I was probably still single digits, and I begged my dad to take me up there.
Yeah.
I have always been in awe of these women.
Yeah.
Always been in awe of them.
And it's been such a privilege to learn about them.
The league went, it's a testament to how professional they were.
Yeah.
B, how good they were, that the league went for 11 years. So the league went from 43 when it started to 54. Yep. So well past the end of the war.
Yeah.
And at its initial inception, the league was only 4 teams.
And then it grew.
It was the Kenosha Comets,
the
Racine Bells, the Rockford Peaches, and the South Bend Blue Sox. And that was because it was year 1. There was 4 teams, and the teams were all close to the Chicago area. And then from that point on, the league just grew. At the most teams they ever had was 15. So in total, throughout the duration of the league, there were 15 teams. You had the Peaches, the Blue Sox, the Bells, and the Comets.
And they carried on for a majority of the time. Yeah.
Those 4 carried on for a majority of the time. But the Peaches and the Blue Sox were the only 2 teams to be in existence for the entire 11-year duration of the league.
That's amazing.
Some teams only existed for a season. Some teams for, almost the whole existence of the league. Some teams for 2 seasons. I mean, but they all had, for the most part, I think with the exception of the Comets and the Blue Sox, they all had very feminine names.
They did. Yes.
I mean, there was the Milwaukee Chicks,
Yep.
the Fort Wayne Daisies,
Very feminine.
the Springfield Sallies, the
Yeah.
Kalamazoo Lassies. There were other inceptions of the Bells. There was the Battle Creek Bells and the Muskegon Bells.
Mm.
But I think the most popular team, like you say, everybody knows the Peaches.
Everyone knows the Peaches. Yeah.
Everyone knows the Peaches. They were also, I think, their stats in the league were the highest.
Yeah, they were. From when I was doing
World Series.
Yes, when I was doing research, it was
they won
they
four
won
World
four.
Series.
Yeah.
I mean,
I also feel like that the movie and the TV show brought a lot of people back into the fact that a woman's job during the war wasn't just at home to wait for their boyfriend or their husband to return home.
Oh, yeah.
But in the same kind of breath, it also reminds you that the significance of what they did was forgotten by historians, because I think through a lot of misogyny that still has not gone away, a lot of men didn't think that women should be playing baseball. A lot of men thought that women should be at home doing their household chores and things like that. And it wasn't until 1980 when former pitcher June Peppers launched a newsletter project to get in touch with her old friends on the teams. Because I believe, obviously, a lot of them had got married and changed their surnames, so she couldn't find them, she couldn't access them.
And there was no Facebook at the time.
There was no Facebook, obviously, at the time. There was just letters, and of course, people move and they don't tell you about the change of address.
No, you don't know their phone number.
But it worked obviously in her favor, and they had their first reunion in Chicago in 1982, almost 30 years after the league had ended. And I find it so sweet that they kept trying to find each other and that they all got to get back together.
There's something to be said. There's something to be said about that. It really is.
Lifelong friends.
Yeah. I mean, when you share something so special, that is the only. I kept telling you the movie is special. The movie is special.
It genuinely is so special.
And it's because the league was special. The women who played were special. They were, I mean, gosh, all American girls. They were all supposed to be dollies, which was, slang for cute, slang for pretty. But they were firecrackers.
They were, and they took no nonsense from anybody.
Not at all.
And I love that about them, is that they, again, broke the mold of what a woman should be.
Once again, right? Obviously, they were strong, but you see in that moment, not that I hate to go back to it, or I hate to talk about it, but it's a very sad moment, but it's also very real, right? It's very real, to be honest. The moment in the locker room, they're very happy. They're singing the song that Evelyn wrote.
Yes.
And they're about to go into the playoffs, and Jimmy Dugan comes in, and then the War Department knocks on the door. And you see how quick on a dime during the war a woman's life can change.
Yeah.
And poor Betty loses her husband. And I think, especially the fact that it's Betty, I think really hits you, because in the early part of the movie, she's so excited to have Jimmy Dugan sign her husband's baseball card.
And he rips it.
Yeah. Because he's just at that point a fall down drunk, and he's grouchy, and he doesn't want to be there because I don't have ball players, I have girls.
Exactly.
And then you see the gentleman from the War Department doesn't have the name of the recipient, and he's like, I have to take this back. I can't tell you who it is. And Jimmy Dugan basically grabs it out of his hand and shoves him out of the locker room.
Yeah.
And he breaks the news to Betty, and he's the one that just lifts her up and carries her out.
He literally picks her up.
And that, if that doesn't show you that yeah, he's got his issues, and yeah, he was a
Yeah.
grouch. He's still a human being.
Not such a bad
There
guy
is
after
something
all.
inside of him,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I
Um,
also loved the intensity of him holding that letter and looking between all of these women. And in your mind, you're like, I know it's not her, and I know it's not her, but it could be her, and it could be the anxiety of it, of, oh
oh,
my
seeing it
goodness,
for the first time, yes.
yeah, it could be Dottie's husband, it could
Hmm.
be Betty's husband. And it's the way that they're sat next to each other, so you don't know which direction his hand's gonna go to
And they're all holding
hand.
each other's hands, and they're
Well,
wearing their crosses around their neck, and they're
yeah.
holding each other's hands.
And
And
it's
it's
when she realizes and she breaks, but you
mhm.
also see Dottie kind of
She's
the
relieved, but
relief.
she can't give that relief externally because her friend is sitting next to her
Yes, her
in
friend's
shambles.
suffering, obviously.
Yes.
But I
Um,
loved that. I love that moment of the tense silence of, oh my goodness,
who
where
is
is
it
this
going to
gonna go?
be?
And then it was to a point where in the next scene where Dottie's in her room crying, sobbing.
Because she's just missing her husband
Yeah.
so
And
much.
he comes back, he walks into the room, and my first thought was, oh my goodness, she's imagining it because she's so upset. She's imagining
Mhm.
that he's come back. And I was so glad that that this was not her dreaming about it. But at the same
No.
time, I thought, oh my goodness, now she's going to quit because
You got
he's come
so
home from the
mad.
war.
You
I
got
was
so mad
so
when you
mad
thought she quit. You
over
got
a
so mad.
man. I was like, no, come back. That honestly, that part upset me more than
Mhm.
her and her sister falling out. I don't
To
know
be
why.
quite honest, Kit had a lot of growing up to do.
She really did.
She
Truly.
everything that ever went wrong in her life was, well, it's because I'm the little sister. Well, it's because my
Yeah.
sister's good at baseball, so she has to. I'm good, but my sister's good, so my sister has to be better than me. It was
Yes.
never about that. I
Yeah.
never saw it like that. I actually
Agree.
saw it as, this might be controversial to anybody else who's seen the movie. Kit's kind of whiny.
No, she is. She really is. She
She's
is
kind of
very
whiny.
whiny. And
And
everything's kind of like a woe is me type deal.
yeah. And you could see on her face when she realizes her sister came back to play the last game that it's kind of like an oh shit moment.
I do have a question to ask you about
Mm.
the movie, as you've seen it so many times. Do you think that she dropped the ball on purpose so
I
that she would
don't
let
think
her
she
sister
dropped the
win?
ball. I don't think she dropped the ball on purpose. I think her sister really just knocked the absolute wind out of her.
Yeah, and it just
And it
happened.
just happened. I really don't think, I genuinely, all these years later, don't think she dropped the ball on purpose, because you can see it on her face in the locker room
Yeah,
at the
she
end.
does look disappointed.
She looks
Very
upset.
disappointed.
She looks
Yep.
very disappointed. Because she's kind of realized in her head, oh my God, I do love this game.
Yeah.
But then it's also, but I'm not coming back. I love it so much, but I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to play again. And she's
Mm-mm.
making her peace with, I just lost.
Yeah. My
And I'm
last
not
game.
getting a chance to redeem my loss in another season.
Yes.
And now on top of it, my sister's staying and I'm going.
Yeah.
And now I'm losing my sister. And
It's a lot all at
it's a
once. And
lot all at
then,
once. It really is a lot all at once. I don't think she dropped it on purpose. If anybody listening has seen the movie and thinks otherwise,
like me, I think she dropped it. I think she did it on purpose just so she could
we'll
have.
put up a poll on Instagram
Yes.
for those of you who have watched it.
Did
Do
she
you
drop
or
the
do you not
ball
think she dropped the ball in the last at
last
bat
scene
during
of
the
the
World
movie?
Series
Yeah.
on purpose?
I think she did because she wanted just to let her sister win and be happy. That was my take on it, was that, oh no, I've dropped it. Now you can go celebrate. Like, yes, this is my final game,
Mm.
but you win now
I
because
can
I'm
see how you
done.
can see that. Like I'm not.
Yeah. No, of course.
Listen, I'm not. I think
But
it's possible.
I bet if I watch it again, I'm gonna be like, nah, she just got thrown
You
to the floor
because
and her body
you can
naturally.
see, because in the moment before, and this is the other reason why I don't think she dropped it on purpose.
Yeah.
Before Kit starts her at bat, Dottie calls a timeout.
And then she goes
And
to
she
tell,
goes up to Ellen Sue and she
Yeah.
tells Ellen Sue exactly what pitch to throw to strike her
Yeah.
sister out.
See, that's where my opinion gets a little muddy because I'm
She
like,
tells
she
her
tells
to
her
throw
what to
them
do.
high fast.
Yeah,
Because
because she
Kit
hates
just
them.
she can't contain herself.
Yep.
And that's why I don't think she dropped it on purpose, because she
Yeah.
was ready to do whatever it took,
Mm-hmm.
even using her
Exactly.
sister's weakness against her to win that
Yeah.
game. So that's why I don't think she dropped it on
No, that's
purpose.
fair. I understand that. But then I'm also like,
Because that's a
maybe
savage move. That's your sister.
Yeah,
And
that's your
even though
sister.
she's on the other team, she's still your sister. That's a savage move.
And then I also think maybe she realized that, and that's why she dropped it on purpose. Because
Oh,
she's
you're
like, oh,
you're going deep on this
I
one.
feel
Okay.
bad. I feel real bad that I just did that. Let me drop it.
I
But
don't
then
think
again,
so. I still
she's
don't
such
think
a
so.
good player. She's such a good player that why would she drop a ball?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Anyway, that's the internal fight I'll be having for the next week. Like, I'll watch that scene over and over just to be like, cement an opinion.
We'll let you know how many times I get a text that she changed her mind on what the opinion is. Wait, I don't think. I think it's
Wait,
her
I don't
mind.
think. And then the next day, wait, no, she dropped it.
She dropped it.
But what a beautiful movie. I loved it. I loved
knew you
every
would.
second.
I knew you would.
Loved every second. And I'm gonna rewatch the show again and compare those two.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the show is now special to me based on the fact that that's what got me back into this
Yes.
kind of thing. But I think if I had to pick one, even though you haven't asked me to, I'm gonna pick one anyway, and I'm gonna say that the movie, I would watch the movie over and over again. I can't. I tried to rewatch the first episode of the show again, and I can't get back into it. And I don't know why. But I think again, it's my taste has changed.
I also
Maybe.
think, this is my opinion, and even though you didn't ask me, I'm going to say it anyway. I think the costumes were better in the movie.
Yes,
The
I
uniforms
agree.
were better in the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
And now we're talking this, like the cinematography of it all in the movie is
Yes.
stronger. And we're talking 1992, probably a good 20 years before digital. So you're recording
Yes.
on film. You know, CGI wasn't really a thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was a baseball field, like racing
Yes.
field in the movie. That was Doubleday Field from Cooperstown. They
Yep.
just, made it up to look like a 40s ballpark.
Yeah.
But that was actually a real ballpark. I think that the uniforms were more realistic in the movie.
Yes, I agree with that.
The logo, like the logo especially, like I look at the logo for Rockford in the show, and it's just like one giant red patch on their chest.
Yes, it's not
Whereas
like sewn in.
The logo on the uniform in the movie is more sewn in. It looks authentic. It looks real.
I will say that the costumes in the show look more like Halloween costumes.
Yes, I was just gonna say the uniform looks like the Spirit Halloween version of the Rockford Peach Halloween costume.
I will say though, I was extremely upset when the show got cancelled, but I do understand why people didn't like it. I think they went in with the expectation of it's going to be exactly like the movie in episode form. And now I've watched the movie, it absolutely is miles away from each other. So I can see why viewership fell.
I watched it all the way through, but I watched it the one time. And I just really haven't had it in me to watch it again.
I think both.
But I compared it very hard. That's the other thing. Like I went in not blinded by. I had expectations. I did. I had expectations, and I know that Shaw is supposed to be the equivalent to Dottie.
And she just isn't.
But it doesn't fall, like it kind of falls a little flat in that respect.
Sure, in comparison, Dottie is feisty and she takes nobody's nonsense. Shaw is a wet rag. But I liked that about Shaw, is that she built herself up to a place where she could emulate Dottie, if that makes sense.
No, I can see that.
Shaw, I felt like Shaw was very wet flannel, feeling very woe is me. In that sense, I kind
Very
of feel
Kit.
like,
She was very
yes,
Kit.
even though she was supposed to be the main character like Dottie is in the movie, she gave more of a Kit
Yeah.
vibe. I think both are so special. Both are so beautiful.
Yes.
But that movie, man, so good.
I just think it's important that there's media to tell these women's stories.
I agree.
That's what's so special. Whether you liked the
Yes.
movie better or the show, what's important at the end of the day is that there's people telling this story, that there's still people telling this story, that in 2022, somebody said, well, these women were really special. These women were really important.
Yeah.
Let's tell a different side of the story.
Which I'm really glad that they did, because
It
obviously
just
within the time,
it
people
goes
were
to
not coming
show
out.
it goes to show the impact
Yes.
that the league really did have on society.
Yes.
It did. I
Absolutely.
mean, I was a 9-year-old kid who fell in love with a movie, who had essentially got her first history lesson on a family trip.
Which is so wonderful. And I love that.
And I think now that I had a chance to think about it, that was really my first introduction to the 1940s, the period, the
Yeah.
music. Oh, the music. If
The music
somebody
is
doesn't
so
get that,
good.
if somebody does not get that soundtrack up on
Please.
Spotify,
We're begging.
I
It
mean,
was so good.
the score is done by Hans Zimmer.
It's
Why is it
beautiful.
not? Why is it not on Spotify? It's beautiful.
It really is.
Even Madonna's song at the end. I mean, you got Carole King doing the
Yeah.
opening song. Madonna's doing the closing song for the credits. I mean, they really just hit you in the gut from the start.
They really do.
Penny
And
Marshall
it's so
really said, let's
beautiful.
just knock them down
Let's just
from the
kick the
start.
air out of them from
Yes,
the
let's
very
take the
beginning.
air out of them from the very beginning. And then at the end, let's make them cry.
And then I also feel the same about the show and that soundtrack. There is a moment where Shaw and two friends walk out onto the tryout field for the first time, and Dream by the Pied Pipers is playing, and it's so whimsical and soft. And then they go into tryouts where they're knocking the teeth out of each other to like catch the ball and stuff. But it's such
the music makes
nice,
them.
yeah,
The music really made it. I love
really
that scene,
did.
the tryout scene in the movie.
Yes,
I love John Lovett's character
with his big cigar,
with his giant cigar and his,
his
hey,
silly little
cowgirls, that he
mustache.
just continues to refer to them as cowgirls. And I
I
mean,
wanted to see more of him. He really tickled me.
I mean, he does play the typical misogynistic guy, though.
He really does.
I mean, you see it when he's trying out Marla.
Yeah, he kind of shudders.
He sees her as a really good ball player at the start,
Yeah.
but she's far away and she's got the
Yep.
hat down over her eyes
And her
she's
hair's
hiding her
all
face.
in.
That when she takes off her hat, he jumps back. Like he
Ooh.
physically retracts, like he recoils from her. And the only reason she gets to go is because Dottie and Kit put up a fight.
I love how they
They
threw their
just
bags
dropped their
down,
suitcases. Yeah.
and they're like, we're not moving because she's really good, and having good looks is not the only thing.
That's
that should
exactly
matter.
it. It's not all about having a pretty face.
Exactly.
But it also goes to show how the right group of friends,
Will stick
and the
up
right
for you.
people in your corner, they'll stick up for you.
Yeah.
And that's what I really love about
And
Marla's story.
that's what made it so special for me as well, is that they all came from different parts of the country, all from different walks of life, and they all genuinely loved each other.
They did.
And I think it was the same for the actors in the movie and the real women themselves.
Absolutely.
Just respect for each other the whole entire time.
That's it. It was just respect for each other.
It really was. And I loved it. I'm gonna just keep saying that I loved it. I loved it. And I'll probably end up watching it again and again.
So glad you. I really am. I'm really glad that you loved it. I had no doubt that you were going to love it.
It's such a me movie as well.
I knew. I just had a feeling.
Yeah.
I just had a feeling.
Just knew.
I mean, I was so excited for you to watch it. Like I
Yeah.
was genuinely excited to share it with you.
Yeah.
Like I was watching the TV. I had the phone next to me. Your texts kept coming through, and I was like, "Oh my god, she's loving it. Oh my god, she's pissed at all the right moments. She's mad at
Exactly.
all the right people. I love it."
Truly, it feels like such a gift to be able to share this with you because you love it so much. And I'm glad that I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's watch it. It was wonderful. Loved every second.
Amazing.
Truly.
Amazing.
Loved it. Honestly, I keep saying it and it's gonna sound insincere by the end of this, but
She's being
genuinely,
honest.
I'm being so honest.
She's being so honest.
It's now my comfort movie, I think.
Oh,
That's what I'm gonna fall asleep to.
yes.
I loved it.
Glad.
Really, truly.
So glad. With that, I think we will say goodbye. Thanks again, everybody, for hanging out with us. I know we keep promising coffee and donuts, but I mean,
We haven't come
we
through
hope you
with
know
that
that
yet.
it's
Give us time.
We hope you know we're not being literal. I mean, by all means, if you want to go pour yourself a cup of coffee and pick up some Dunkin' Donuts before you listen to us, who are we to stop you?
We're trying to get hold of the lard from the recipe, the original recipe of the Red Cross. We can't really find any lard at the moment.
I might give it a shot one day.
But a coffee recommendation, Warbird.
Yes.
That's our favorite. That's what is in the Club Mobile currently.
This is not a paid advertisement.
This is not ad. We
this
just
is not
love
a
the
paid
coffee.
advertisement. This is just generally two girls who are wired on caffeine 90%
Constantly.
of the day. You can get it in the UK. You can get it in the States.
Yes.
It's good coffee, guys. Like I'm not even blowing smoke. It's really good coffee. And
It's really
it's strong.
good. But thank you again.
And we will see you guys next time.
See you next time.